The shadow of oppression. For centuries, the galactic overlord Zarnak ruled the galaxy with absolute power. His reign was built on fear, destruction, and the relentless exploitation of weaker species. Humanity, one of the youngest civilizations to emerge, had been crushed under Zarnak's heel long before they could fully explore the stars. Earth was no longer the vibrant blue jewel it had once been. Now, it was a shadowed planet, its resources drained, its skies crowded with Zarnak's patrolling ships, and its people divided between despair and rebellion. Those who resisted were swiftly punished. Entire cities were wiped out as examples, leaving only ashes as a reminder of Zarnak's might. In the heart of what remained of New York City, a secret meeting was taking place. Deep underground, hidden beneath layers of camouflage and signal jammers, a group of scientists, engineers, and freedom fighters gathered around a glowing hologram. It displayed a massive ring-like structure orbiting the sun, a Dyson sphere, a megastructure of unimaginable power. Dr. Elena Marlowe, a physicist and one of Earth's brightest minds, stood at the center of the room. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with determination. "This is our last hope," she said, pointing to the hologram. "If we can complete it, Zarnak will no longer have a hold over us. For the first time, humanity will have the power to fight back." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Everyone in that room had lost something to Zarnak. Family, friends, homes. They were all united by one goal: to end the Overlord's tyranny. "How can we finish it?" a grizzled resistance leader named Commander Harker asked. His face was lined with scars, each a testament to his battles against Zarnak's forces. "Zarnak's fleet is watching us. His spies are everywhere. The moment he finds out about this, he'll destroy it. And us." Elena stepped closer to the hologram, her fingers brushing against the glowing image of the Dyson sphere. "We already have a head start. The sphere's construction began decades ago in secret. It's why Zarnak hasn't stripped Earth of every resource. He doesn't know we've been using his greed to build a weapon that could end him." Another voice spoke up, younger and trembling with fear. "But activating it won't that draw his attention?" "It will," Elena admitted. "But by the time he notices, it will be too late." The tension in the room was palpable. The Dyson sphere was a gamble, a desperate move that could either save humanity or bring about its extinction. But for those gathered in the underground bunker, there was no alternative. They had seen what submission brought: desolation and death. Above ground, Zarnak's forces continued their patrols. Enormous ships hovered over cities, scanning for any sign of rebellion. The Overlord soldiers, towering beings clad in black armor, stomped through the streets, their weapons ready to eliminate any threat. But the resistance was careful. Each move was calculated, each piece of the Dyson sphere transported under the cover of darkness. Hidden within Earth's moon, the sphere's core hummed with energy, a faint sign of the power it could one day unleash. Zarnak, sitting on his throne aboard his flagship, was unaware of the growing threat. To him, humanity was nothing more than an annoyance, a conquered species with no fight left in them. His focus was on expanding his empire, crushing other civilizations that dared to resist him. But even the most powerful ruler could not see everything. In the depths of the moon, as engineers worked tirelessly to bring the Dyson sphere to life, Elena received a troubling report. "Zarnak's patrols are growing more frequent," one of her assistants said, his voice low. "They're starting to suspect something." Elena's jaw tightened. "We need more time. Tell Harker to ramp up the diversions. We can't let Zarnak find this place." Above ground, Harker's fighters launched small-scale attacks, drawing Zarnak's forces away from key locations. Each skirmish was a deadly dance, with lives lost to buy precious minutes. But the fighters knew the stakes. Every second they gained brought the Dyson sphere closer to completion. As the chapter closed on this day, humanity's defiance burned brighter than ever. The shadow of oppression still loomed, but cracks were beginning to form. Deep within the moon, The Dyson sphere pulsed faintly, its energy growing stronger. And far above, in the cold void of space, Zarnak's flagship remained silent. The Overlord had no idea that his greatest enemy was preparing to rise. For the first time in centuries, hope had returned to humanity. But hope alone wouldn't be enough. The true test was yet to come. A glimmer of power. The moon was no longer just a barren satellite orbiting Earth. It was a fortress of hope. Deep within its hollowed-out core, a sprawling facility buzzed with activity. Engineers adjusted massive conduits, scientists calibrated intricate systems, and workers transported precious materials, all working in perfect synchronization. The Dyson sphere was more than a weapon. It was humanity's lifeline. Dr. Elena Marlowe walked briskly through the central command chamber, her focus unwavering. Holographic projections of the Dyson sphere's progress hovered around her. Each glowing section of the sphere represented years of painstaking effort, and now they were on the verge of bringing it to life. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the hum of machinery. A young technician looked up from his console. "We've stabilized the core, but the energy levels are fluctuating. The sphere isn't fully operational yet." Elena frowned. "How long until it's ready?" "Another 3 days, maybe less," the technician replied hesitantly. "But if we push too hard, we risk an overload." 3 days. Elena's mind raced. They were so close, but the risks were growing by the hour. Zarnak's forces were becoming suspicious, their patrols sweeping dangerously close to the moon's hidden base. Commander Harker entered the chamber, his heavy boots echoing on the metallic floor. His face was grim. "We've got a problem," he announced. Elena turned to him, her expression sharp. "What is it?" "Zarnak's patrols just intercepted one of our supply ships. The crew didn't make it out. Worse, they're sending more scouts toward the moon." A ripple of unease spread through the room. If Zarnak's forces discovered the Dyson sphere before it was ready, everything would be lost. "We need to buy more time," Harker continued. "I can lead another diversionary attack, draw their attention away from here." Elena shook her head. "You've already lost too many fighters. We can't afford another assault." Harker stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "If we don't act now, there won't be anything left to protect." Elena met his gaze, the weight of leadership pressing down on her. She knew he was right. Without a diversion, Zarnak would find them. But sending more fighters to their deaths felt like a betrayal of everything they were fighting for. Before she could respond, an alert blared through the chamber. Red lights bathed the room, and a robotic voice announced, "Incoming enemy fleet detected." Panic rippled through the team. On the holographic display, dozens of ships appeared, moving in formation toward Earth's moon. Zarnak's forces were closer than anyone had anticipated. "They'd found us," someone whispered, their voice tinged with fear. "No," Elena said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Not yet. They're searching, but they don't know exactly where we are." Harker clenched his fists. "Then we need to make sure they don't get the chance to find out." Elena nodded, her mind racing. "Prepare a decoy signal. If they're looking for activity, let's give them something to chase, far away from here." The technicians scrambled into action, transmitting false energy readings to lure the enemy ships toward a distant asteroid field. It was a gamble, but one they had no choice but to take. Meanwhile, Elena turned her attention back to the Dyson sphere. She knew the team was exhausted, but the sphere had to be operational before Zarnak's forces returned. "Listen up," she called, her voice commanding. "We're running out of time. I need everyone working double shifts. This sphere needs to be ready. Failure is not an option." The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Despite the exhaustion etched on their faces, the team pushed forward with renewed determination. As the decoy signal drew the enemy fleet away, Harker prepared for the next phase. He gathered his remaining fighters, briefing them on the plan to protect the moon at all costs. "We may not be able to outgun them, but we can outsmart them," he told his team. Every second we hold them off brings us closer to victory. Above the moon's surface, camouflaged turrets and hidden defenses began powering up. The resistance had prepared for this moment, knowing it was only a matter of time before Zarnek's forces arrived. Back in the command chamber, Elena stared at the holographic projection of the Dyson sphere. The energy fluctuations were stabilizing, but the sphere was still incomplete. She clenched her fists, willing the system to work faster. Suddenly, the technician from earlier called out, "Dr. Marlowe." The core just spiked, it stabilizing faster than expected. Hope flickered in Elena's chest. How long until we can activate it? Maybe 2 days, if we maintain this pace. It wasn't ideal, but it was progress. For now, humanity had a sliver of hope. But as Elena looked at the hologram, she couldn't shake the feeling that Zarnek wouldn't be deceived for long. In the depths of space, the Overlord sat on his throne, staring at reports of unusual activity near Earth's moon. His cold, reptilian eyes narrowed as he issued a single command: "Find them. Destroy them." The Overlord's suspicion. In the dim expanse of his warship's command chamber, Overlord Zarnek sat in silent contemplation. The vast bridge, lit only by the soft glow of control panels, reflected his cold, calculating nature. Around him, subordinates worked tirelessly, their hands moving over alien technology, but none dared to disturb his thoughts. He stared at the holographic projection of Earth and its moon, his piercing eyes fixated on the faint signals emanating from the region. The humans were hiding something. He was certain of it. "Overlord," a voice broke the silence. It was General Kraith, his most trusted commander. "Our scouts have intercepted a series of energy anomalies near Earth's moon. They appear intentional." Zarnek's claws tapped rhythmically against the armrest of his throne. "Intentional. Elaborate." Kraith stepped forward, manipulating the projection to zoom in on the lunar vicinity. "We believe the humans are trying to mask their activities. The patterns are too precise, too deliberate to be random interference." Zarnek's eyes narrowed. "They think they can outwit us. Foolish creatures. Should we investigate further?" Kraith asked, his voice hesitant. He knew how quickly Zarnek's temper could flare. The Overlord rose, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the room. "No, we don't investigate. We crush. Mobilize the fleet. If they are hiding something, we will find it. And when we do, they will regret their defiance." Kraith saluted and hurried to relay the orders. As Zarnek watched the projection of Earth, his mind wandered to the last time humanity had shown resistance. It had been decades ago, during their initial conquest of Earth. Back then, humans had been resourceful, resilient, and surprisingly innovative. But ultimately, they had fallen, just like every other species. Now something had changed. Humanity had been quiet for years, their rebellion crushed into submission. But this new activity near their moon, it reeked of desperation, and desperation could lead to unpredictability. On the moon, Elena Marlowe paced the command chamber, her nerves on edge. The Dyson sphere's energy readings had stabilized further, but time was running out. "We've picked up increased chatter from Zarnek's fleet," one of the technicians reported. "They're moving closer." "How close?" Elena demanded. "Close enough. They're onto us." Commander Harker entered the room, his expression grim. "We've deployed the decoys, but it's only a matter of time before they see through the ruse. Zarnek isn't stupid." Elena sighed, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Then we need to make sure we're ready when they arrive." "How's the sphere?" Harker asked, glancing at the holographic projections. "It's stabilizing," Elena replied, her voice tight with determination. "But we're still 2 days out from full activation." "That's 2 days we might not have," Harker said. Elena didn't respond. She knew he was right, but admitting it wouldn't help their situation. Instead, she turned to the team. "Double-check every connection, every system. If we can shave even an hour off the timeline, It could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. As the team worked tirelessly, Alina's thoughts drifted to the sphere itself. The colossal structure, hidden within the moon's shadow, was a marvel of engineering, a testament to humanity's ingenuity. It was designed not only to harness the power of a star, but to turn that power into a weapon capable of reshaping the galaxy. But would it be enough to stop Zarnek? Aboard Zarnek's flagship, the fleet moved into formation, their sleek, dark vessels cutting through space like knives. Zarnek stood at the helm of his flagship, his eyes fixed on the growing image of Earth's moon. "Dispatch the reconnaissance ships," he ordered. "I want every inch of that moon scanned." "Yes, Overlord," a subordinate replied, quickly relaying the command. As the smaller ships peeled away from the fleet, Zarnek's lips curled into a sinister smile. He could feel it, humanity's fear, their desperation. It was almost tangible, like the scent of prey cornered by a predator. "They can't hide from us," he muttered to himself. "Not for long." On the moon, alarms blared through the base as proximity sensors detected the enemy's advance. "They're scanning the surface," a technician announced, panic in their voice. Alina and Harker exchanged a glance. They were out of time. "Activate the moon's cloaking field," Alina ordered. "If they find even a trace of us, it's over." The room buzzed with activity as the team worked to engage the cloaking systems. Outside, a shimmering field enveloped the moon's hidden installations, rendering them invisible to the enemy sensors. But the strain on their systems was immense. "Cloaking field is holding," the technician reported, "but only just." Alina exhaled, relief washing over her. "Good. Now let's." Her words were cut off as a massive energy spike registered on the monitors. "What is that?" Harker asked, leaning over the technician's shoulder. "It's the Dyson sphere," the technician stammered. "The core just surged. It's emitting a signal." Alina's stomach dropped. The sphere's energy output had momentarily breached the cloaking field, sending a pulse into space. "Zarnek's fleet will have detected that," Harker said grimly. Alina's mind raced. They had to accelerate the sphere's activation, no matter the risks. Turning to the team, she said, "Prepare for an emergency launch. We'll bring the sphere online now, or we'll never get the chance." As the team scrambled to comply, Alina looked out at the holographic display of the approaching fleet. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The Overlord's advance. The silence of space shattered as Overlord Zarnek's fleet loomed closer to the moon. His ships, dark and angular, bristled with weaponry designed to crush rebellion. On the flagship, Zarnek stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze locked on the holographic display of the moon. The energy pulse had been faint but unmistakable. Something powerful lay hidden beneath the lunar surface, and Zarnek was determined to uncover it. "Have the scans revealed anything?" he asked, his voice cold and sharp. General Kraith bowed slightly. "The moon's surface shows no signs of activity, Overlord, but the energy signature cannot be ignored. It must have come from deep within." Zarnek's expression darkened. "They are using tricks to mask their operations. Prepare the drilling units. If they won't reveal themselves, we'll force them into the light." Kraith hesitated. "If I may, Overlord, engaging so close to the moon could expose us to unknown dangers." "The humans." "The humans are cornered," Zarnek interrupted, his tone dripping with disdain. "They have nothing left but their pitiful schemes. We will crush them as we always have." On the moon. Alina Marlowe's heart pounded as the alarms blared through the command center. The Dyson sphere's accidental energy surge had tipped their hand. The enemy fleet was now moving with alarming precision, their smaller craft scouting dangerously close to the cloaked installations. "They've dispatched drilling units," one of the technicians reported, their voice trembling. Alina swore under her breath. She turned to Commander Harker, who was reviewing the holographic battle map. "We can't let them breach the surface," she said. "If they reach the sphere, it's over." Harker nodded. Agreed. But we're still hours away from full activation. The sphere's systems aren't ready to fire yet. Alina's mind raced. They couldn't afford a direct confrontation with Zarnak's fleet, not in their current state. But they also couldn't sit idly by and let the Overlord tear through their defenses. Deploy the defense drones, she said finally. Use them to harass the drilling units and buy us time. Harker hesitated. The drones are no match for their firepower. It's a suicide mission. I know, Alina replied grimly. But we have no choice. Above the moon. As the defense drones launched from hidden bays, their sleek forms darted through space like angry hornets. They swarmed the approaching drilling units, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The initial assault took the Overlord's forces by surprise. Several drilling units were destroyed before the fleet responded, and Zarnak's command room erupted into chaos. Defensive maneuvers. Kraith barked. Protect the drilling teams. Zarnak watched the holographic display with narrowed eyes. The humans were clever, using their meager resources to stall this advance. But he was not deterred. Let them struggle, he said, his voice calm and icy. Their desperation is proof of their weakness. Crush the drones, but do not deviate from the mission. The moon's secrets will be ours. On the moon. In the command center, Alina and her team monitored the battle in tense silence. The defense drones were holding their own, but their numbers were dwindling rapidly. They're breaking through, Harker said, his voice tight. Alina clenched her fists. We need more time. How are we doing with the sphere? The stabilization process is at 85%, a technician reported. We're close, but we're not there yet. Alina's mind raced. The defense drones were buying them precious minutes, but it wouldn't be enough. They needed a way to delay the Overlord's forces further. What if we collapse the surface tunnels? She asked. Harker frowned. That would slow them down, but it could damage the sphere's infrastructure. It's a risk we have to take, Alina said. If Zarnak gets through, the sphere won't matter. Harker nodded reluctantly. I'll give the order. Aboard Zarnak's flagship. Zarnak's claws tapped rhythmically against the armrest of his throne as he observed the battle. The humans were putting up a spirited resistance, but he could sense their desperation. They're buying time, he muttered to himself. Overlord, a subordinate interrupted. Our sensors have detected tremors beneath the moon's surface. It appears the humans are collapsing the tunnels leading to their installation. Zarnak's eyes gleamed with a sinister light. Clever, but futile. Order the fleet to intensify the bombardment. We will strip away their defenses layer by layer. On the moon. As the first tremors shook the command center, Alina steadied herself against the console. The plan was working. The tunnels were collapsing, and the Overlord's forces were momentarily stalled. But the victory felt hollow. The Dyson sphere's systems were still not ready, and the enemy was relentless. We're running out of options, Harker said, his voice low. Alina didn't respond. She stared at the holographic display of the sphere, its immense power tantalizingly close to activation. Then we make our stand here, she said finally. If we fall fighting. As the enemy fleet regrouped and prepared for a renewed assault, Alina knew the next phase of the battle would decide humanity's fate. The First Awakening. The Dyson sphere stirred. Deep within its massive ancient core, energy conduits pulsed to life. Golden light seeped through cracks in the lunar surface, casting an eerie glow that seemed to defy the darkness of space. The faint hum of awakening power resonated through the hidden control center, filling every human heart with a mix of awe and trepidation. Alina Marlowe stood at the edge of the central console, her hands trembling as she watched the holographic readouts. They were close, closer than they'd ever dared dream. But time was running out. We're at 92% stabilization, the lead technician reported, their voice barely masking their excitement. The sphere is responding, but it's still fragile. If the Overlord strikes now. Alina cut them off. No ifs. We hold. Commander Harker, his face shadowed with fatigue, approached her. The drones are gone, and the surface tremors only delayed them for minutes. Zarnak's forces are regrouping. This is it, Marlowe. If the sphere doesn't come online, it will, Alina said firmly, though her heart pounded with doubt. We didn't come this far to fail. Aboard Zarnak's flagship, Overlord Zarnak observed the glowing moon with narrowed eyes. The golden light was unmistakable now, radiating in defiance of his fleet's might. "What is this?" he murmured, his voice laced with disdain. General Kraith stepped forward hesitantly. "It appears the humans are harnessing some form of ancient power source. The energy readings are off the charts, but it's unstable." Zarnak's expression twisted into a sneer. "Unstable or not, it won't save them. Target the epicenter of the energy surge. We'll strike before it solidifies." "Understood, Overlord." As the fleet's weapons systems locked onto the moon, Zarnak's lips curled into a malevolent smile. The humans' last hope would become their tomb. On the moon. The alarms blared again, sharper and more urgent than before. "They're preparing to fire," Harker shouted. Alina's mind raced. The Dyson sphere's defenses were still inactive, and they had no countermeasures to withstand a direct bombardment from Zarnak's flagship. "How long until full stabilization?" she demanded. 5 minutes minimum, the technician replied. "We're almost there, but we need more time." Alina gritted her teeth. 5 minutes might as well have been an eternity. "Commander," she said, turning to Harker, "we need to distract them." "How?" "We're out of drones, and our surface teams are wiped out." Alina's eyes flicked to the secondary consoles. An idea, reckless and desperate, took shape. "The sphere's energy conduits. They're active, right?" "Partially," the technician confirmed. "But they're not stable enough for a full defense sequence." "I don't need a defense sequence," Alina said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I just need a light show. Divert all available power to the outer rings and fire off a controlled energy surge. Make it look like we're about to attack." Harker blinked. "You're bluffing." "Yes," Alina admitted. "And if it works, it'll make Zarnak hesitate. If it doesn't, we're dead anyway. Do it." The bluff. The outer rings of the Dyson sphere flickered and then erupted in a cascade of brilliant light. Beams of golden energy shot into the void, dancing like the fingers of an angry star. The sheer spectacle was breathtaking, illuminating the entire battlefield in an ethereal glow. Aboard Zarnak's flagship, the effect was immediate. "Overlord," an officer exclaimed. "Energy surge detected. It's massive." Zarnak's sneer faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. The humans couldn't possibly control such power, could they? "Hold fire," he ordered, his voice sharp. "Analyze the surge. I won't risk an attack if it triggers a chain reaction." "But Overlord," Kraith interjected, "if we wait." "I said hold fire," Zarnak roared. The gamble pays off. In the command center, Alina watched the fleet's hesitation with bated breath. The readouts confirmed it. Zarnak's ships were regrouping, their weapons powering down. "It's working," Harker said, his voice tinged with disbelief. Alina exhaled shakily. "Good. Now let's make sure it's not for nothing." The technician called out, "Stabilization at 97%. The sphere is almost ready." Alina's gaze hardened. She knew they had only minutes before Zarnak saw through the bluff. But for the first time, hope flickered in the darkness. The Dyson sphere was waking up, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. The wrath of the sphere. The Dyson sphere roared to life. Golden arcs of energy coursed across its colossal surface, illuminating the void of space with blinding intensity. Deep within its core, ancient mechanisms, dormant for eons, now pulsed with immeasurable power. The moon's surface cracked and shifted, revealing shimmering conduits that radiated like the veins of a living titan. Alina Marlowe stood frozen at the console, the magnitude of their achievement leaving her momentarily speechless. Around her, the control room was alive with frantic activity as the technicians scrambled to interpret the data flooding their screens. "We're at full power," one of them exclaimed, their voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. "The sphere is fully operational." Commander Harker's gaze was fixed on the holographic display of Zarnek's fleet. The alien ships had backed off slightly, their formation broken in confusion and fear. But hesitation wouldn't last long. "Elena," he said, his voice low, "what happens now?" She tore her eyes from the glowing redouts and met his. "We show them why humanity built this." Aboard Zarnek's flagship, Overlord Zarnek's composure cracked as he watched the Dyson sphere transform. His claws tightened around the edge of his command throne, the golden light reflecting in his wide reptilian eyes. What is this?" he hissed. General Kraith's voice was unsteady. "Overlord, the sphere's energy output it's beyond anything we've ever seen. If they unleash it—" "They won't," Zarnek snapped, his voice desperate. "Humans are reckless, but even they wouldn't risk annihilation on this scale." He leaned forward, his mind racing. This had to be a bluff, an attempt to intimidate him into retreat. But as the sphere's energy output surged again, Zarnek felt the first stirrings of genuine fear. "Prepare the fleet for a tactical withdrawal," he ordered. "If they fire, we scatter." "But Overlord," Kraith objected, "what if they don't stop? If the sphere's power is limitless?" Zarnek silenced him with a glare. "They won't have the chance. I'll see to that myself." Unleashing the sphere. In the Dyson sphere's control room, Elena's hands danced over the console as she activated the targeting systems. The ancient technology responded with precision, its interfaces adapting seamlessly to human commands. "Targeting Zarnek's flagship," she said, her voice cold. Harker raised an eyebrow. "The flagship, not the fleet." "No," Elena replied firmly. "We don't need to destroy them all. We just need to make it clear that we can." The technicians exchanged nervous glances, but said nothing. They knew better than to question her judgment now. "Firing sequence ready," the lead technician reported. Elena hesitated for a fraction of a second. She thought of Earth, of the billions of lives depending on them, and of the countless other species who had suffered under Zarnek's rule. "Do it," she said. The Galactic Overlord's fall. The Dyson sphere released its wrath. A beam of pure energy shot out from its core, slicing through the void with impossible speed. The golden light seemed to ripple through space itself, bending reality as it tore toward Zarnek's flagship. Aboard the ship, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to react. But it was too late. The beam struck with surgical precision, obliterating the ship's engines in an instant. The massive vessel shuddered, its once imposing form now a lifeless hulk drifting in the vacuum. The rest of the fleet froze. The humans hadn't unleashed indiscriminate destruction. They had aimed with terrifying accuracy, sparing the fleet but leaving no doubt about their power. The message sent: "Overlord Zarnek's ship is disabled." Harker confirmed, his voice tinged with disbelief. Elena allowed herself a small, grim smile. "Good. Now, let's make sure they understand the message." She activated the sphere's communication array, broadcasting a message across all frequencies. "This is Commander Elena Marlowe of the United Earth Coalition," she began, her voice steady and commanding. "We have awakened the Dyson sphere, and we now control its power. Your Overlord's reign of terror ends today. Leave this system and never return. If you choose to defy us, know this: we will not hesitate to defend ourselves or the innocent lives you threaten." The silence that followed was deafening. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat, their engines flaring as they fled the system. Zarnek's flagship remained adrift, a stark reminder of humanity's warning. Victory at a cost. As the last of the alien ships vanished from the displays, a heavy silence settled over the control room. "It's over," Harker said softly. Elena nodded, though her expression remained somber. For now, she looked out at the glowing Dyson sphere, its immense power still radiating around them. They had won, but the cost of wielding such a weapon weighed heavily on her. "Let's hope we never have to use it again," she murmured. But deep down, she knew the galaxy would never forget the day humanity unleashed the wrath of the sphere. The legacy of power. The Dyson sphere hung in the void like a glowing sun, its golden light illuminating the desolate battlefield that now surrounded it. Didris from Zarnak's shattered flagship floated silently, a stark monument to the end of the Overlord's tyranny. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the consequences of their victory lingered in the minds of all who had witnessed it. In the control room, Elena Marlowe stood at the center of the control room, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the Dyson sphere. The hum of its immense power filled the air, a constant reminder of what they had unleashed. Commander Harker approached her, his usually stern face softened by the weight of recent events. "The fleet's retreat is confirmed. The Overlord's forces are scattering across the galaxy." Elena nodded but remained silent. She had expected relief, even triumph, but instead, she felt a deep unease. "And Zarnak?" she asked quietly. "Captured," Harker replied. "He's aboard one of the rescue vessels. No fight left in him." Her lips pressed into a thin line. A monster brought low, but at what cost? The crew's reflection. Around the room, the crew whispered among themselves, their voices a mixture of awe and apprehension. "We did it," one technician said. "We showed them what humanity is capable of." "Did we?" Another countered. "Or did we show them what we're willing to become?" The words hung in the air like a shadow. Zarnak's reckoning. Aboard a secure vessel, Overlord Zarnak sat in a containment chamber, his once proud form slumped in defeat. The golden light of the Dyson sphere filtered through the small viewport, a haunting reminder of his failure. When Elena entered the chamber, he didn't lift his gaze. "You humans," he rasped, "you've doomed us all. That power, it was never meant to be controlled." Elena stepped closer, her eyes cold and unyielding. "Perhaps not, but it's ours now, and it's the only thing that kept you from destroying us." Zarnak's laugh was bitter and hollow. "You think you've won. The galaxy will fear you now, yes, but fear breeds alliances. You may have shattered me, but others will rise to challenge you. Then they'll face the same choice you did." Elena said, her voice sharp. "Leave us in peace or suffer the consequences." Zarnak's laughter faded into silence as Elena turned and left. A galaxy transformed. Word of humanity's triumph spread quickly, rippling across the galaxy like a tidal wave. Planets that had suffered under Zarnak's rule rejoiced, hailing the humans as saviors. But not everyone saw them as heroes. In hidden corners of the galaxy, whispers of dissent grew. Fear of humanity's power turned former enemies into uneasy allies, their shared goal being to ensure such a weapon was never turned on them. Humanity's burden. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory reached the surface. For the first time in generations, humanity felt truly safe, their place among the stars cemented by the power of the Dyson sphere. But Elena found no comfort in the revelry. As she stood on the observation deck of the sphere, staring out at the infinite stars, Harker joined her. "You should be down there," he said. "They're celebrating because of you." "They're celebrating because we showed them what we could do," she replied. "But power like this, it changes things, Harker. Not just for us, but for everyone." He nodded, understanding her unspoken fears. "So, what do we do now?" Elena's gaze hardened. "We protect what we've built. We use this power wisely, sparingly. And we make sure the galaxy understands that we'll only use it when we have no other choice." A final warning. In a final act of defiance, the Dyson sphere sent out a message to every corner of the galaxy. A recording of Elena's voice, calm and resolute, echoed across the stars. "To all who hear this," she said, "know that humanity desires peace, But we will not tolerate tyranny. Let the ruins of Zarnak's fleet serve as a warning. If you threaten us or those who cannot defend themselves, we will respond. And when we do, the galaxy will tremble. The sphere's legacy. As the message faded, the Dyson sphere dimmed slightly, its energy receding into dormancy. The stars around it seemed to shine brighter, as if the galaxy itself had taken a deep breath. Elena stood alone, her heart heavy but resolute. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not through fear, but through unyielding determination. And the Dyson sphere, a symbol of both their power and their responsibility, would stand as a reminder to all.